Hold on. I got something for this.
All right.
Class is in session. Welcome, everyone, to No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We are presented by Belly Up Sports. My name is Ryan McCarthy. I'm one of your hosts. To my right is a man who was caught smoking in the bathroom way too many times in school. Because smoking ain't allowed in school, Dustin Henry.
That's right. But smoking in the boys' room, man, I was doing it. No, I was not. I did not smoke in high school. Man, this was a great idea. I'm fired up to do this, Ryan. I've been waiting all day to grade some of these teams. And hats off to you for this idea. I feel good. I feel good. I told you in the green room, I was going for hard drinking English lit teacher who's a little frustrated. We'll see if I pulled it off. Ryan, how are you tonight, sir?
I look like a Presbyterian pastor getting ready to preach some fire and hellfire and brimstone messaging. But no, I'm doing all right. I've been looking forward to this. I and thank you for giving me the credit for the idea because
yeah.
I thought about this. I'm like, okay, let's do grades, but let's dress up like school teachers. And we'll bring in our guests in just a moment. But before we do that, we just want to remind people at home, again, thank you for tuning in on Facebook, on Twitch, and on Twitter. This will be on replay on the Belly Up Sports YouTube channel. I also want to thank those of you who are watching on Drew's platforms. We'll get to him in just a second.
Yeah.
But we just want to remind people about where you can find No Credentials Required, which is right here on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch. Just search for No Credentials Required or at NoCreds.REQ. Also, check out our other podcasts and written content at bellyupsports.com. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Music, iHeart, TuneIn, Pandora, and our host Podbean, Freshly Brewed Podcasts. Hit that notification bell on Twitter and on YouTube so you know when the shows go live, when we have clips of the show that go up, when our collaborations, can find our past videos on collaborations with Belly Up Sports. We'll be posting this to later, and when we just have general show announcements as well. On the podcast side, hit the subscribe button. Again, listen to us on podcasts, rate, review, comment. Leave us a 5-star rating. Leave us a review on platforms such as our host, which is Podbean, on Podchaser, Apple Podcasts, and Good Pods. Also leave a comment if you're listening on Spotify, and also if you're watching this particular show later on the Belly Up Sports YouTube channel, leave a comment below. And also, we are a live show. Tuesdays. We'll let you know when we're live, but usually we're on Tuesdays. We're on Tuesdays, 6:30 p.m. We'll be on Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern for our Super Bowl preview, and we'll be going live Monday morning for our post-mortem of the Super Bowl. And we want to hear from you. We got some comments in the comments section. And Drew, I know school is in session, but this tune is always too hip to be square.
That's right. Class is in session. It's evening class time, but it always is chime time.
It's chime time indeed. Oh, I'm trying to focus here on the camera.
I know.
It's so weird.
It is. It is.
So if you're watching on Twitter, I'm in landscape. I'm in portrait mode instead of landscape mode. So it's a little weird. I'm trying to get my big freaking head into place here. It's a little strange.
It's got a house that brain of yours, that Encyclopedia Britannica brain.
We got some comments before we bring in our guests. Got some comments here. Desi joining us all the way from Alabama, sweet home Alabama. We hope you're thawing out. She says hello, fellas. Sick Diggy joining us from all the way from Nora. Always says, "What's good, everybody? Hey, glad you can be with us." Desi saying love. Desi saying love my dudes at No Creds. My buddy Pooh saying, "What's the topic tonight?" The topic tonight, Pooh, final grades in the NFL for every team in the NFL season. Julie coming in from Michigan, saying hello, gentlemen, and Desi saying hello to Julie. But let's bring in our special guest. We haven't had him on for a while.
Yeah, we gotta
he's no longer a zombie. He's no longer a zombie. He's no longer zombified. He is joining us tonight, and he is a repeat guest on our show. He is our friend from all the way from one of the colonies, one of the original colonies. He's the CEO, COO, and CFO of Sartoba Media. He is the host of the In or Out Sports Debate. So let's go. Bring in our guest. He's a gym teacher tonight, because those who can't teach, remember, those who can't teach and those who can't teach gym.
Oh man!
Drew,
oh my
how
goodness!
We doing tonight?
Hey, I'm cool with having the sports sector of the education. Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you for that great intro. Looking forward to discussing a bunch of sports ball tonight with you gentlemen. And it's been a while, and yes, it is great to not be a zombie anymore. Now 5 weeks into this new shift, I'm starting to get used to being up at 6 a.m. rather than going to bed at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
So it's been a nice shift, and I'm glad to be able to be here on a Tuesday night with you fellas.
Yeah, great to have you finally. And also shout out to you for watching during your lunch breaks, all those shows. I appreciate that.
Right now would be the time I would be grabbing something to eat and checking you guys out with listening while I'm in a drive-through or something like that, whatever the case may be. But yes, those times are over now. I can watch just during regular dinner instead of out there and about with work. So yes, definitely a big shift.
All right. Got some more comments in the comment section saying we have Julie saying Desi. I got Hell Dean New OH08 saying what in the peanut butter and jelly?
That's Hellhound. I know who that is from my extra life life stream. That is the man, the myth, the legend.
Hellhound.
Diggy, I believe.
That's right. Hellhound. Thank you for joining. Hellhound. Thank you for joining us. Nick, your brother-in-law is saying the GD Jets get a big old. My buddy Pooh saying there's a lot of C and F teams this year. Well, to be fair, I have quite a few C teams and quite a few A teams as well. So,
Mr. T's up in the chat.
Yeah. Julie's saying Dustin looking snazzy in that suit.
Oh, thank you. Sport coat, but
Desi in Alabama saying welcome, Drew.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and Desi saying, I know, right? Dustin is hot as co-host. Hey.
Oh, thank you very much.
Ma'am, you are a married woman. Okay. We appreciate you.
She might have a friend though. She might have a friend for you though.
That's right. We just need to move south.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we might as well start getting to these grades. Which we need to start and just let people know class is in session.
That bell takes me back.
We're gonna do about 5 minutes per division. We're gonna do about 5 minutes per division.
Okay.
Give our grades. Give a little bit of an explanation as to why we gave the grade for these teams. So we're gonna start in the AFC East. We'll start the timer. 5 minutes. We're gonna give our guest Drew the first opportunity, the first crack. At the division. So what are your final grades for each team in the division?
It's tough. I mean, of course, you got your Jets in there that finished 3-14. That was obviously, another rough year for you guys. And the Dolphins, who were 7-10, now needing, changing in head coach, and as well as the Bills, who were 12-5 and shifted with their head coach after an early exit in the playoffs. But you have a team that has made it all the way to the Super Bowl, being the Patriots. And if we're grading for the entire year, including, from start to finish, it's not over yet. Super Bowl's here, but the team made it to the Super Bowl. And because it is representing the AFC, you have to give a little bit of a bonus to the AFC East for that, just a little bit. And the Broncos had the same record, 14-3 as the Patriots at the top, and they were the number 1 seed, but they couldn't get it done. Of course, they were missing their quarterback and they were relying on their backup, but that does play a part into my grade for it. If we're ranking, are we doing like letter grade, like A, B,
Letter
C,
grade,
D?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
You know,
letter grade. If you want to add a plus or minus, you can do that as well.
I would have to do that because they would get the plus over the West. So I would have to say right now, because the Patriots are representing in the Super Bowl, and the next closest division that you have is the South, who had the Jags with 13-4 and the Texans, who were 12-5, as the closest like division that's competitive with them, besides the Broncos, who led their division. The Chargers weren't as competitive as the Texans were to the Jags in the South. I have to give the A+ to the AFC East right now.
Okay.
All right.
Well, what about grades for each team? What do you have for grades for each team?
I would say the reason why the AFC East gets the A+ is, of course, the Patriots get the A+ because of where they're at. The Bills, because they underperformed, and regardless of who you want to blame, the GM, the coach, I would say the GM more so than the coach, and that's a long debate for another day. They'd have to get a C because they didn't advance beyond our expectations. They regressed. Then you have to look at the Dolphins, who have played very underwhelmingly considering what the weapons that they have and the coaching that was supposed to be great, and that flopped, and they were 7-10 this year. I would have to go with a D for the Dolphins. D stands for Dolphins in this one. They did at least get the 7 wins. Jets, I'm sorry, bro. They get an F.
Deserved it.
they flat out deserved it, and that's my grade. But the reason why the AFC East gets such a big grade overall is they are represented in the Super Bowl, and that's why I went as high as I did with them.
All right, Dustin, how about you? What are your final grades for each team in the division?
All right, I'm going to blow through this kind of quick, and we're going to start at the bottom with your New York Jets, Ryan. I will give them a D- because special teams was good, but mostly I'm factoring in those draft trades. I think they did what they could to try to get some resources, because that roster as constructed, there were players that were going to want to leave. A lot of people were angry that they traded Sauce after extending him, but the picks that they got, they were okay. C or D- I give to the Jets. Next, I go to the Dolphins. The Dolphins were up and down. At times, they looked good this year, and they beat teams you didn't expect them to beat, but then they faltered. They got off to a horrible start. And I'm factoring in the Stephen Ross press conference. Forgetting your coach and GM's names, that's pretty terrible. I give them a C- because at points they looked like, maybe they can cheat off the test. They can get it done a little bit, but then they would be exposed. All right, next we're going to Buffalo. Josh Allen is the overachiever that gets Buffalo a B, but I'm telling you, they were dangerously close to C because they didn't go out and acquire a true number one wideout. The man that they just promoted could not get that done. I don't think the fault was with McDermott, but Josh Allen is good enough to get you a B. Barely, though. And then, of course, the Patriots get an A. They're going to the Super Bowl. Mike Vrabel turned things around faster than anybody thought they would. Their free agency signings hit. The reason I didn't give them an A+, though, that line's a problem. That offensive line is a problem, and we'll see what happens. But Ryan, I pass it on to you.
All right, I got 12 seconds left, so I'll go very quickly. Buffalo, B-. Did what they could with what they had. And then they fired their head coach and promoted their GM to president of football operations. I don't understand. Miami, C-. Got off to a slow start. Their GM was rightfully let go midway through the season. And Mike McDaniels couldn't keep his job, even though they went on a little bit of a hot streak towards the end. Let's face it, they were all against subpar opponents. New England, I gave an A, because of the fact that they're in the Super Bowl. It's a quick turnaround. They finished 9-0 on the road, which is an NFL record. It's never been done before. And they are now in the Super Bowl. And my New York Jets, they got a D-. Based on the fact they won 3 games. Otherwise, this was a train wreck of a season. But they're building blocks. There are building blocks for the future, just not in 2026. Just not in 2025. And the way things are going right now, it looks like we're going to be in full tank mode for 2026 because a certain quarterback named Manning is going to be a draft eligible in 2027. So That's just me. That's just how I feel. All right, we're moving along. It's time for the AFC North. So hit that bell. All right, Dustin, I'll have you start. Put 5 minutes on the clock. Give your grades for each team in the AFC North.
All right, the Browns get a D from me. Okay, they get a D because they retained Andrew Berry when I think Kevin Stefanski should have been the man that they retained. How is Andrew Berry still the GM of this team? You got a great defense in Cleveland. That's right. I said what I said, but they've squandered it completely. They couldn't figure out the quarterback situation. They traded one of their quarterbacks to a division rival who had him in contention for the playoffs for a moment there. Cleveland, I'm sorry, you get a D. All right, next we're going with the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm sorry, but you get a C minus. You're barely above the Browns because that defense was woefully bad, and you almost let Trey Hendrickson leave, and I think you just franchise tagged him. So you got problems again this offseason. You invested too much money in your offense, but you couldn't stop anybody, so you're not going to win games, especially when Joe Burrow went down. C minus for the Bengals. On the other end of things, I give the Ravens a B minus because they underachieved with the talent that they had. John Harbaugh's play calling was confounding at times. Use Derrick Henry more, John Harbaugh. I hope you don't make that mistake with the Giants. And then we move on to the Steelers. The Steelers also get a B minus from me. And yeah, they finished at the top of this division, but this division was trash this year. Mike, why am I blanking on the longtime coach of the Steelers' name? It just
Tomlin.
Mike Tomlin just stepped down, and you hired Mike McCarthy. So I think you're going to finish much in the same place that you did. This defense that you paid a lot of money for, great on paper, not so great on the field. If you're looking to Aaron Rodgers to come back to try to save you, you got problems. B minus for the Steelers. Who's next?
All right, I'm going next.
All right.
I'll go in alphabetical orders here in terms of city name. Baltimore Ravens, C+. Got off to a bad start, picked things up towards the end, had to win one game to get in. Unfortunately, didn't quite make it because Tyler Loop missed a field goal. Football gods are cruel, but you made up for lost time with the C. Give us some effort at the end, C+. Cincinnati, C-. C- effort. Joe Burrow's injury buried them. Their defense, one of the worst I've ever seen, at least in the beginning of the season. Got better towards the end with Al Golden's system, but they didn't have enough talent on the defensive side of the ball to get things done. Cleveland, I give them a D+. It would have been worse if not for Myles Garrett's record-breaking season with 23 sacks. And then finally, the Pittsburgh Steelers, I give them a solid B+. I'm sorry, B-. Yes, the best grade in the division because of who they were. Offensively, they did just enough to win a game, but Mike Tomlin's tenure that we knew was kind of thinning out. The message in the locker room wasn't quite getting to the rest of the team. I think his message had worn out by the time the season was ending, and they were ceremoniously dismissed in the wild card, giving up 21 points in the final quarter of that game. So that's my grade for these teams. Drew, your grades for each team in the division.
For the Browns, the two most exciting things for them this year were Shedeur Sanders and Myles Garrett, of course, going for the sack record, because of Flacco starting, then you had Gabriel coming in, getting the injury, the concussion, and then you got Shedeur coming in. And for them, I would say because of the highlights with Myles Garrett and the quarterback situation, they deserve a D. I'm not going to give them an F, even though they underperformed. The Bengals, I'm going to give them the same grade. They had only one win better than them, and we expect a whole lot more out of the Bengals. Their offensive line is absolutely atrocious, and they need to get that under control to give Joe Burrow protection if they want to improve this upcoming season. The Ravens definitely underwhelmingly played. They, like the Bengals and Browns, were 3-6 at home and only got as close as they did to being one game under 500 because they had a decent away record. I have to give them a C-. They underperformed this year. They like you guys said, a field goal away from going to the playoffs, and it shouldn't have even been that close with the talent that they have on that roster. They definitely needed a coaching change there. The Steelers, Captain Ayahuasca did it. He led them to the playoff in 7 for the season. Mike Tomlin still finishes without a losing record for his entire tenure as a head coach, winning record in above 500 and above this entire tenure because of what they did. Getting to the playoffs, even though he had to resign and they had to move in a different direction because it was either that or he was going to get fired next year. He was able to control his destiny because of the way he was able to leave, the way the season went, the fact they made the playoffs. I'm giving them a B. I'm going to give them a solid B for what they did this year. They deserve a better, of course, than the Ravens, but they finished 3 wins above 500. That says a lot. They did really well at home, and they finished with the 500 record on the road as well. They deserve their flowers for what they were able to pull off with the turmoil they had this season.
All right. With that being said, it's time to move on to the AFC South.
If the teacher pops a quick test, I know I'm in a mess. It sounded like the Saved by the Bell.
All right, because we're
grading the teams. There we go.
We're grading the teams. Oh, man. AFC South. I'll lead off here. All right. Houston, the Texans. You get a solid B. Get a solid B after an 0-3 start. You made the playoffs again. The first time since 2018, an 0-3 team started. A team started 0-3. It went to the playoffs. Who was the team that went in 2018? Oh, yeah, the Houston Texans. So rallied from an 0-3 start. Best defense in the league. Unfortunately, they were beset by, on the offensive side of the ball, I wouldn't say a lack of talent, but I would say C.J. Stroud falling apart at the wrong time certainly hurt them, especially in the divisional round. Indianapolis Colts, C-. C-. What a fall, because this team was A-level team, was an A-level team at the beginning of the season, had a 7-2 start.
Yeah. And
then crash landed after that Sauce Gardner trade and finished 8-9. They went 1-7 after that. A-level team, they finished with a C- grade. The effort was just lost. Also, too many injuries totally killed their season. Jacksonville, A- season. Absolutely great season. Fantastic defense. Offense got red hot. I'm sorry, not red hot, got white hot at the right time, and they won the last 7 games in a row, and they won the AFC South. So congratulations to them. Great effort. You get an A-. The Tennessee Titans, I kind of hemmed and hawed back and forth with them, but I give them a D+, only because of the way that their season started. But towards the end of the season, they still finished 3-14, but they were starting to show competency on the offensive side of the ball, especially with Cam Ward. I think now he's got a new head coach. He's got Robert Saleh. He's going to have Brian Daboll as his OC officially. Yes, because the last 2 vacancies were filled. Brian Daboll is going to be the OC in Nashville next year. And they got a lot of cap space to work with. They can get some offensive talent. Saleh can work on that defense. And I think they're going to be pretty good next year. Pretty good next year. So those are my final grades for the AFC South teams. Drew, what are your AFC South team grades?
So looking at the AFC South, you definitely have to give the Jags their flowers with how they finished and how they played throughout the year. Regardless of how things would have ended with the quarterback situation, I still believe in Indianapolis, I still believe the Jags would have won the AFC South, giving them an A+ for how they turned things around from last year to this year and how things shifted with just Duval as the head coach.
Hold on.
As him, okay?
I got it. Pause.
Duval.
There you go.
That was the shift in tide because they needed that leadership in the locker room. Because that they get the A+. I do believe the Colts would have finished in second and would be in the position that the Texans were in had things ended the way that they started, because they beat the Texans pretty handedly earlier in the season and were the better team. And we saw that when the Texans got to the playoffs, in my opinion. They did finish with a 12-5 record, but I'm going to give them a B+ for how they finished based on what I saw from them from start to end of the season. The Colts, that quarterback injury played a heavy part in how things ended. You know, Phillip Rivers came in for the effort, and because of how things were close that first game and a half that he was there, Uncle Phil kept him in there. And, you know, it just goes to show that one major injury to a big key player can affect a team. For their overall success on the season up until that point, even including that, I'm going to give them a B- for how things went for them for the season, because literally you keep Daniel Jones healthy or shift in quarterback, they're going to be right there where the Texans were, and I feel like they'd be more competitive than the Texans were in the playoffs, in my opinion. The Titans. If we could trade a Canadian football team for the Titans to be more competitive, I would say trade the Titans for the Saskatchewan Roughriders and have them in the NFL and have the Saskatchewan Roughriders represent the AFC South, because they would play better than the Tennessee Titans. Saskatchewan Roughriders, my vote. Titans get an F-.
Wow. Right. Fun fact: there was a CFL team in Memphis that played in the mid '90s. FYI.
Oh man,
Dustin, over to you.
All right. So I'm going to go. I've been going by lowest grade to highest. I think that's the way I'm going to keep doing it. We're going to start at the bottom. I will give the Titans a C- because they finished better than anyone thought they would. Once they made the switch from Callahan to the interim coach, Mike McCoy, they started to look like an actual football team. I think they have some pieces. And as Ryan mentioned, I like the hires that they made, and they're going to turn it around a little bit. Their offensive line was horrible though. So they get a C-. Okay. Next, we are going to the Indianapolis Colts. Indianapolis Colts, they get a C because their team, once Daniel Jones went down, they just couldn't do anything. And it was tough to watch because, like you said, they started, but also Jonathan Taylor tailed off during that.
They became one-dimensional.
They did. They became one-dimensional, and even their rookie tight end, who had started off gangbusters, he kind of regressed too. You could see how much Daniel Jones, his absence, impacted this team, and obviously you couldn't use Anthony Richardson. Who knows what happened if he had been available, because he had that scary eye injury, but they just became very one-dimensional, so I give them a C. Okay, next we are going to the Houston Texans. The Texans, I give a B, a solid B. Almost went B- here because I still don't know why Mixon did not play at all for this team. Their running attack was awful this year. Said before, I love Nick Chubb. I love the comeback story, but he did not have it. If they had put a running game around CJ Stroud, that offensive line is still a problem as well. I think Stroud would have been a little better. He regressed some this year, and without Tank Dell and some of his key players, we saw how much they rely on him. Last, I go to Jacksonville. Jacksonville was the class of this division. I kept waiting for the wheels to fall off the cart, and it didn't. Trevor Lawrence looked good this year. They even made the trade with the Raiders for Jacoby Myers. That worked out as well. Parker Washington hit. A few of their things hit, and there was doubt whether ETN would even be on the team at the end of the year, and he was one of the best backs in the NFL this year. I give them an A. Solid performance from the Jags.
Alternatively, you could give them a D for Duval.
At that point in the offseason, yes. At that point in the offseason, you could definitely give him that. But no, I like your take on A. I might have gotten a little bit too happy and gave him the A+. But I like what I saw from the Jacksonville this year.
Okay. Hey, it's your grade. I mean,
yeah. This is we're gym class, English lit, and whatever Riot's got going. So
but get them out of Tennessee and get them into Saskatchewan.
American history.
There you go. That's what I was going to say.
Not American. Professor. No, not American history. American history. American history.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
All right. Next class, the AFC West. That's right. Fourth period has begun. Drew, your grades for every team in the AFC West.
Hey, starting with the Broncos, very similar to the Patriots, had a very great year, 8-1 at home, 6-2 away. And had that injury not happened to Bo Nix, I'd be talking about them like I was the Patriots earlier. I mean, on both sides of the ball and special teams, they were clicking on all cylinders till that injury happened to him, and stayed somewhat competitive until the snow happened in that last game. So for that, I'm going to give them an A, just under the Patriots at my grade of A+. Chargers, I feel like they underperformed this year to an extent. They should have definitely elevated themselves based on year two with Harbaugh and with the weapons that they had picked up in the offseason. They started out the season, up into the mid, looking pretty good, but then kind of tailed off a little bit, even though they won their last two games. No, they lost their last two games. My apologies. So with that, when you look at how things were inconsistent for them down the stretch, I'm going to have to go with the Chargers being a B- and not performing up to the expectations of how the offseason was. I mean, people were talking Chargers should be in the Super Bowl representing the AFC last offseason. That's how much their weapons they had increased. The expectations were on them. Speaking of Super Bowl, the Chiefs definitely took a major dip with how they've been over several years, falling to 6-11 this year. The injury to Patrick Mahomes was absolutely devastating. They were still technically in the playoff chase, even though their hopes had dwindled down to 3% at that point. At the time of his injury in that game, though, they were already mathematically eliminated based on some games that had played out earlier, and they were getting smacked. So technically, I feel like Andy Reid should have taken them out. That could have jeopardized their future. With their current year, I'm going with the Chiefs at a D, because they should have been better than 6-11 this year based on the hype and how things have been over the last several years. The Raiders, absolutely terrible, in the same class as the Tennessee Titans. If you could have not just one team to trade to the CFL, but another option, A or B, Tennessee or Las Vegas, you're going to probably keep Las Vegas. But if I had to pick between the two, I would still say Tennessee. But if you can't, trade the Raiders for the Rough Riders. Get them
or the Alouettes
minus
or the Montreal Alouettes. They finished. They were the Eastern representative for the Great.
Bring Ryan's team over. His team, my team. Get rid of the F minuses.
Yeah, that's right.
Me as gym teacher yelling at kids.
Dustin, your grades for the AFC West to the functionally alcoholic music teacher.
Yeah, there we go. Go. Because my degree, Julie, was not in English, but it is in music industry. We see how well that worked out for me, but that's neither here nor there. To the Raiders, because they are at the bottom of my list, and I'm sorry, this is the first F I'm giving out. Nothing went right for the Raiders this year. The Pete Carroll hire, and believe me, I wanted it to go well. It did not go well. Pete's philosophy did not work. He actually said in an end-of-the-year press conference, we were lucky to tie the Seahawks in the preseason, and the Raiders had their starting defense in for a lot of that game, whereas the Seahawks were playing their second stringers. That should have been a sign. They did upset the Patriots week one, but it is not enough for them to escape the F for me. F for the Raiders. That job took a while to fill. Tom Brady's got crazy input. Is a head coach going to want to put up with that? We'll see how it's going to go. Okay, next, I'm going to, now this one's tough for me, but I'm going to give the Chargers a C, and it's because they were up and coming. Their defense is good. They have some pieces, but we are factoring in all of the season. And the Chargers, again, could not get over the hump in the playoffs, and they looked terrible against the Patriots. Even though their defense got after Drake May a little bit, they could not protect Justin Herbert. They can't seem to keep Justin Herbert healthy. Their wide receivers didn't work out. Keenan Allen was like their most steady receiver at the end of the season. I give them a C because of their playoff underachievement. All right. Then I'm going to the Chiefs. The Chiefs also get a C from me because, as Drew laid out, they still never addressed the problem at running back. They didn't have anybody. They rely too much on Patrick Mahomes. The rest of their division caught up to him, with the exception of the Raiders, and they didn't account for it. And all of a sudden, Andy Reid's innovative offense didn't look so innovative anymore. They finished way below expectations this year. I give them a C. That gives the Broncos and I'm waffling. I'm going to give the Broncos an A-, though, because the Broncos, they had such a great season, but as I bemoaned, they became one-dimensional. They were elite at one thing, rushing the quarterback, and that defense is the real deal. So I give them credit for that. But running back, again, when J.K. Dobbins went down, they couldn't really solve that, and this team almost lost to the Jets in London. Their offense could just disappear at times. They're a little bit one-dimensional. That's why they're getting the A- from me. Almost went B+. Professor McCarthy?
All right, I'll be quick. All right. Denver, starting with, again, I'm going in alphabetical, not by grade order. So, because that's how I do. Denver, A-. A- season. Offense had some troubles at times, but their defense was incredible. Almost set the sacks record. 85 Bears still own it. Congratulations to you guys 40 years later. But that pass rush is legit, and I hope they stay that way for a very long time. That Orange Rush defense, very good. Unfortunately, Bo Nix's injury proved to be too much. Proved to be too much in that AFC Championship game. Kansas City, I was kind of giving them a C-. Give them a C- because of the division, because of their defense. Defense never quit. Defense never quit this season, but that schedule was an absolute killer this year. They had an awfully tough schedule. Injuries on the offensive side of the ball, inconsistency in the offensive side of the ball, and like Professor Henry mentioned, lack of a running game. I got Isaiah Pacheco, but he's not the number one guy. He's not a number one guy. He deserves to be a number one guy somewhere else, or be a third down back. Be a third down back, but he's not a full-time bell cow running back like we see in other places in the AFC. Los Angeles Chargers, I gave them a solid B. And the only reason why I gave them a solid B, because of their defense, and because regardless of all the injuries they had on the offensive line that decimated them, they lost both their tackles during the season, they still made it to the playoffs. And I gotta give them some credit for that. No, a B, solid B, A for effort. The Las Vegas Raiders.
Oh man.
F-, see me after class.
The Raiders got that test that says CB for extra help after it.
Yep. And boy, do they need it. Which brings us to recess. The comment section. They'll have our lunch period, which is our commercial break. And then we'll focus on the NFC teams. We got a lot of comments tonight, especially from Twitch.
Yeah.
Contributing, guys. We appreciate it. Let's see here. Let's see. Oh, Hellhound saying it's the Battle of Beards tonight.
That's true. That's true.
I'll let mine grow out for the winter because it's dang cold up here in the Northeast.
Mine has been growing out since I cut the hair. Got to grow something out. So
yeah,
back to the 1800s I go.
There you go. say hi to Jebediah for me.
Jebediah. Whenever I shave the mustache off and I keep just this, my family calls me Jedediah. Jedediah the plowboy.
If you shave the mustache off, you could just get the neck beard. You could become a whaler.
Oh man, get
That's
me a
what's called a
phosphate.
whaler.
Get me
No
a
Alaska.
phosphate from the general store. I need a phosphate.
In regards to Desi's comment about Dustin, co-host Dustin looking hot, Julie says she can look at the menu, she just can't order.
Oh man. Oh man.
Julie saying, yeah, seems fair for Buffalo. They're just kind of meh. Josh Allen has a cute face, so at least they have that going for them. Julie, once again, I must remind you, you can look at the menu, you just can't order. Plus, because Haley Steinfeld. Hellhound saying trash, garbage.
Yes, I believe he was talking about the AFC North there.
Yes, and Julie agreeing, saying trash division. She also hates Aaron Rodgers because of the Packers. She says Aaron Rodgers is a loser. He's washed now. In my completely non-biased opinion. Dustin mentioning Saved by the Bell. Hellhound saying Screech is one of my favorite characters from Saved by the Bell. Let's see what else we got here. Julie saying, I'm here for the Chiefs being knocked off their pedestal. They needed it. Did Ryan? Hellhound saying, did Ryan say La Comoringue or lack of a running game? I said lack of a running game. That's what I said. I speak kind of fast. I was trying to keep within the 5 minutes we had, but we went over. We keep going over, but that's
We're
okay.
trying to move.
The first
We're
one.
trying to move.
Let's see. Dan from Time to BS saying trash. Oh, and Hellhound saying Drew should try the Jim the Anvil Neidhart goatee this summer.
That'd be a pretty awesome.
I have done it. I might have to bust up a picture to see, compare, contrast. But
Nice.
I don't know. I just like having the beard because especially this time of year, it's good protection for the cold.
Oh, for sure.
Those wind chills.
Well, I got no hair, so I gotta have some hair on my this noggin of mine. Might as well be in the face area.
It's a trademark now.
And Dan's asking, what does Dusty Rhodes think of the trash? Well, let me tell you something, baby. That trash is on its way out. It's on its way out. It's on its way out the window, but not because I'm a thumb of a plumber. The plumber don't take care of the trash. Plumber takes care of the plumbing. Plumber takes care of all the plumbing. Never takes out the trash.
I'm telling you right now, Dan, that Aaron Rodgers, he looks more washed up than Ric Flair did after I gave him that bionic elbow.
Woo!
All right. Well, we've gone to recess. We might as well go into lunch with our sponsor, Frower. This particular episode of No Credentials Required. And that sponsor is Righteous Felon Craft Jerky. Listen, we all have our moments when we get a little hangry, whether at school, whether at work, recreation. We had that moment where we get hangry, and we don't need the sugary snacks. Those don't fill your tummy. They don't fill your tum-tums. Protein does. What you can get with Righteous Felon Craft Jerky, all natural beef, no antibiotics, none of that garbage, none of that trash that goes into your stomach. 100% beef, 100% meat. Get the meat, get the beef sticks, the meat sticks. You get the delightful flavors of jerky right there on your screen. The OG Hickory is my favorite. Also love me some teriyaki Balboa. And you got the beef sticks. You also got the new barbecue. The beef barbecue stick, the honey heist, delicious. Honey barbecue flavors, awesome. But it's not just for human consumption. It's also good for your pets, your dogs in particular, your four-legged animal friends. You can get their Wild Ranger dog treats that are 100% natural, just like the jerky you see on your screen. And for a limited time, for their Valentine's Day sale, you can save 20% off your order with promo code NOCREDS at checkout. Plus, you enjoy free shipping with every order of $60 or more. Get you some today for yourself. Treat yourself for Valentine's Day, or treat a meat lover in your family with some Righteous Felon Craft Jerky right there on your screen. 20% off your order for their Valentine's Day sale. Plus, you get free shipping, fast and free shipping, mind you, with every order of $60 or more. That's righteousfelon.com. Promo code NOCREDS at checkout for 20% off your order. All right. Recess and lunch are over. It's time to move on. The NFC East. We give out our grades for the NFC East. Dustin, why don't you go ahead and start us off with your NFC East grades?
All right. The NFC East. Here we go. I got to think real quick of who's going to be at the bottom. And I'm sorry, Drew. I'm sorry, but it's your Commanders. It's your Commanders. They had problems at quarterback. The injuries affected them. Their defense was absolutely ravaged. Their team was ravaged by injuries, but I will give them an A for effort, much like Ryan did with that Chiefs defense, because they did not quit. But they get a C minus. They just couldn't keep it going in this division. It was tough. Jaden Daniels, obviously, people were debating whether he'd have a sophomore slump. He kind of did, but he was injured a lot. I don't think he was healthy for most of the season. They had injuries to Terry McLaurin. It's just a tough division for him this year, and a tough, kind of fall back to earth after their meteoric rise last season. After that, well, we're going to a familiar face, and I'm going to bring in a substitute teacher to discuss this next team. Hello, everybody. And now, I'm sorry, I couldn't keep it straight. Now, a lot of people, they're saying my team deserves an F, okay? I don't agree with that. I made some key trades to shore up that defense. I stopped the run, but I you know what? I'm giving them a C. I'm giving them a C because, we did trade away Micah Parsons, and I called him Michael at first, and we were just an impact player away, and we just missed it. But my defense couldn't stop anybody, but the offense put up numbers. Dak, we're going to figure it out next year. We're going to run it back. We're going to be, how about them Cowboys? All right, next, after that, I give the Giants.
Coach Willingham's ready to blow.
I give the Giants also a C. This division was tough. This division was real tough. I give the Giants also a C because the Giants, they almost got their star rookie quarterback out of the league in a year because of all the concussions. Dable was playing for his job, and they should have put Jameis in earlier. Jameis made him look competent. It was crazy. Their defense their pass rush has talent, but my goodness, the injuries that they dealt with too. I think it would have been a little bit different story with Malik Neighbors in there, but also not getting rid of Shane Bowen. What are you doing? Had you gotten rid of him earlier, you might not have blown as many leads. And I'm sorry, I'm taking long. Next, I go with the Philadelphia Eagles. I give them a B minus. I almost gave them a C plus because here's what's going on. You did not get rid of Kevin Patullo, even though it was clear his offense was one-dimensional. Their defense carried them this year to the victories that they had. Their offense was non-existent. AJ Brown's flapping his gums on a Twitch stream just like we're doing now. You can't keep it together. The wheels almost came off for the Eagles this season. Jake Elliott's missing field goals, which he never does. It was just, I give them a B minus because they did win the division, but man, what a fall for the Eagles who were playing in the big game 1 year ago.
All right, I'll be quick.
Yeah,
with my grades.
sorry.
Yeah, Dallas Cowboys C minus. And I'm being I'm just a very generous C minus.
Thank you, Ryan. I always liked you.
Well, you know what? I tell you what. Might to have extra credit for this one. All right. So Dallas C minus. They had a chance to catch up to the Eagles at the end of the season for that NFC East division, but they fell off a cliff. I don't know what happened there. Their run defense disappeared after the Quinnen Williams trade. New York Giants, I gave them a D. I was kind of generous with my grade. Gave them a D. They got their defense. Their defense got not only the coordinator fired, but also the head coach fired. Even though the coordinator deserved it more than the head coach. Let's just say that. Philadelphia Eagles, I give them a B minus. This was a team that was winning the Super Bowl last year. At this time they were in New Orleans, ready to absolutely show no mercy to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
And they barely won this division. They backed up into it. So unfortunately, I gave them a B minus. And sorry, Drew, your Washington Commanders. Give them a D. All those injuries just decimate. D is for decimation, kids.
Yeah.
I would have said something else.
Well, we can't. We'll have to keep it G rated, or PG, at least PG rated.
Yeah.
Exactly where I was going with.
All those injuries just absolutely just killed any momentum that they had. This was also the oldest team in the league. I mean, a lot of very interesting veteran pickups to try to take this team over the top, but unfortunately, it didn't really work for them. So I give them a D. Drew, D is for Drew.
The entire NFC East was D for depressing, watching them all season long, especially when you think about the Eagles and where they had just come from the Super Bowl, okay? And then how they underperformed this year. Yes, 11-6 looks good on paper, but you got thumped in the wild card round. They get a C minus as a whole for this season from me. They're lucky they didn't get a D that stood for something else and not depressing. Next, I have the Cowboys, and you can do your Jerome impression, as what Cole Johnson would say, but they are worse than a C minus. They get a D for this season, 7-9-1. Yeah, you get a tie, but you absolutely underperformed. You got rid of Micah. You made some really, really questionable calls again, Gerald. And for that, and for how you finished, you get a D. Then you have the Commies and the Giants, okay? Between those two teams, finishing at the bottom, and the Commanders on paper with record finish with 1 win and 1 less loss, more than the Giants. But I agree with you both. Not as a homer, I'm not going to pick the Giants less than the Commanders because of a record. I'm going to say the Giants performed better than the Commanders, and I'm going to give them a D minus for what they were able to work with for this season. And yes, I agree with what you guys said earlier. Jameis should have started earlier in the season and not have gone on as long as it did with how things went down. They let Jackson Dart down, putting him in some bad situations, which is why he got concussed and why we have a coaching change at this point. The Commanders get an F from me. Jaden Daniels, 3 impactful injuries throughout the season. And you look at how the hyperextension with the elbow went from that point forward. I don't care if you could put it in a cast or whatever, or a brace or whatever, and it's not your throwing arm. You sit him for the rest of the year. You were already mathematically eliminated from the playoffs at that point, or you were about to be, and you knew you were. It's time to build for the next season, and you could have jeopardized his future with how he got hurt as an organization as a whole, from the decision-making, from the coaching, with what you had, even though they were the oldest team in the league. Regardless, with Von Miller and stuff coming in, they could have done better by their players and not put them in bad situations. And each time Jaden Daniels got hurt this season, the team was losing by more than like 2 or 3 scores. So it was already over for that game. You let him down. You let the team down by keeping him in there too long. And that's why they get an F, in my opinion. And the Giants are scored better than them.
Well, if Daniel Snyder was still the owner of the team, people would say that this season was very vanilla.
Yes, and they wouldn't have even had the year that they had prior. We wouldn't even have the talent on the team that we have. But, Dan Quinn himself again, because he looked like Atlanta Dan Quinn this year with some of the decisions he was making, and especially putting his talent, his stars of his team in situations to get them hurt when you knew that the line and others around him weren't doing their job with protecting him in the first place. Very similar situation to what you have in Cincinnati. Looked like what we saw on the NFC side in Washington this year.
All right, moving along. Next class, the NFC North. And I'll start. Chicago Bears, the Bears, A minus. because nobody saw this coming. Nobody saw this coming with the Bears finishing in first place in the NFC North. And Julie from Michigan, sorry, not sorry about the grade about to give to your Detroit Lions. I give them a C. Give them a C. We expected more from them this year. I'm pretty sure most Lions fans also expected more from this Lions team this year. But again, injuries play a huge factor into my grade. And the way that they kind of collapse, they just, I wouldn't say collapsed at the end, but the way that they couldn't finish games this year. Unlike last year, they couldn't finish games. Dan Campbell gambled too many times on fourth down, which is now it's starting to become more of a hindrance. His stupidity is making up for his courage. Because if they work, great. If they don't, this team sucks. So the fourth downs backfired on Dan Campbell. Green Bay, give them a B minus. Give them a B minus. The Micah Parsons injury hurt them at the end. Jordan Love, again, coming around towards Toyotathon, but that blown lead in the wild card I think it's gonna haunt them for a very long time. And somehow Jeff Hafley got a head coaching job out of it. How? And then finally, Minnesota Vikings, I gave them a C. If they hadn't won 5 in a row at the end, if Brian Flores' defense hadn't balled out at the end of the season, they would have probably finished with a D+. But I think that 5-game winning streak towards the end of the season played spoiler against the Detroit Lions on Christmas when they absolutely shocked them and basically eliminated the Lions from any playoff contention, period. So those are my grades for each team in the NFC North. By the way, no shades of color for Caleb Williams' nail polish. Drew, over to you. Your grade for each team in the NFC North.
Mine will be pretty quick on this one. Fingernail Man led the Bears to a very solid year, and I agree with you on what they were able to pull off. I'm going to give them an A- as well. They could have done better, but they lost their last 2 games of the season. And
if DJ Moore hadn't stopped running a route in overtime, this would have been an A+ year.
Yes. But for the next one, I'm going to give a 3-way tie. For the Packers, Vikings, and Lions. All get a D. They all get a D for depressing because the Packers, with what they did, the trade with Micah, regardless if he got hurt or not towards the end, there's no excuse why you lose 4 straight games with the talent that you have around him. The team was already a playoff team before they traded for Micah Parsons, okay? So I understand how things fell apart as a whole towards the end when they get to the playoffs without him. But I'm looking at as a whole, they were better than a 9-7-1 team this year, regardless if you have Micah Parsons or not. The Vikings, with how they regressed with Sam Darnold leaving during the offseason and some of the decision-making throughout the year with their quarterback that they replaced him with J.J. McCarthy, absolutely depressing to watch this type of season. And they still ended it on a high note, winning 5 games in a row. They were 4-8 at one point in this year. That's why it was depressing. The Lions, with what the hype was, how they got as far as they did last year, and they lost to the Commanders, yes, and it was an underwhelming year for them the year before. They had Super Bowl expectations, and they were supposed to rebound this year. They didn't. That's why the Packers, Vikings, and Lions all tie, in my opinion, for D, for depressing.
Professor Henry.
All right, so we're going, and my grades are going to be similar to yours, gentlemen. I'm going from the bottom to the top, as I have been doing. We're going to start with the Minnesota Vikings, because you let Sam Darnold go, and we'll get to Sam Darnold later in the show. That didn't work out well for you because you kept J.J. McCarthy, and per Professor McCarthy's wishes, I will not use his nickname that he gave himself. So that he gets an F. He gets an F. You can't give yourself a nickname. But the other thing is, all right, the Vikings defense really, really kept them in some games late in the season. I was very impressed with what Flores was able to do. So they get a C-. All right, next we're going to the Green Bay Packers. I give them a C because here's the thing. They keep they they don't have a number one receiver, and they spent a high pick on Matthew Golden, and everybody said, okay, this is going to be the year. We got Matthew Golden. It's going to be great. You never knew who was going to emerge for the Packers, and their tight end is their best receiver on their squad. I give them a C because they did rebound Malik Willis. He's good. He probably played himself into a contract somewhere, either as a backup or who knows, a bridge starter, who knows. But their defense underachieved. Like Drew said, they were a playoff team last year defensively, even before the Micah Parsons trade. So I don't factor in the injury. Packers, they get a C. The Lions, they get a C plus. Because here's the thing, they still had a lot of talent, but their offense was clearly struggling. They should have addressed their OC earlier in the season. Dan Campbell had to take over play calling duties, and then even then, Ryan, like you said, he's shooting himself in the foot with going for it on fourth down. Their defense regressed a little bit. The Lions just, especially with the talent they have, they regressed a bit this season. There's no way to put around it. I give them a C plus. The Bears are running away with this. They get an A minus because of the way the season finished, and their defense was a little leaky at points, but they generate a lot of turnovers. And man, Caleb Williams, say what you want. Say what you want about Caleb. He did make some throws where you kind of raised your eyebrow, but then he made some of the best throws I've ever seen. They're starting to figure it out with Caleb. Ben Johnson seems like the coach for him. He had those guys believing. Bears, A minus.
All right. Next period, we're moving on to the NFC South.
Do we have to?
Yes, Professor Henry, we do. Start off with Coach Willingham with his grades for every NFC South team.
Well, this division as a whole was the worst in all of football this year. Absolutely terrible. You know, your top three teams finished with an 8-9 record, a three-way tie as record goes, but the Panthers make it in, and we saw how things ended with that. I mean, they had a much better season than the year prior, so I'm going to give them a little bit better than the Buccaneers and the Falcons, especially since they made the playoffs. I'm going to go ahead and give them a C. The Buccaneers and the Falcons, I'm going to give them a tie, with both having a C minus because they were up there with the Panthers. The Saints, I will give them a little bit better of a record than I've given 6-11 teams because of the fight they put in towards the end of the year. Things were starting to click for them towards the latter part of the season. And for what Kellen Moore was able to do, a Saints team that we didn't see getting 6 wins by the end of it with how they started, I'm going to give them a D plus. Just because of how things ended for them. They could have easily been an F or F minus team, in my opinion. But to get 6 wins out of the crew that they had, good for Kellen Moore. He deserves to be a head coach.
All right. Professor Henry.
All right. Again, we're going from the bottom to the top in this division. And like Drew said, this division was not fun to watch because no one was stepping up to take it. But here's the thing. The Saints, they, like you laid out, I like the effort that they put in every year or every week. And it appears they didn't really get blown out with the exception of against my Seahawks. That game was ugly, but they were in a lot of their games. So I'm going to give them a C minus because nobody saw that. I thought this was a 2-win team, and it appears Shuck doesn't suck. So, Kellen Moore, good on you. So now we're going to go next, and this is where I might shock some people, but I'm going to give the Buccaneers also a C plus because they started out like gangbusters in the beginning of the year. You're thinking this division's going to be theirs again. Baker Mayfield was playing unbelievable. They got bit by the injury bug a little bit, but their rookie, Ibuka, he regressed some. And you mentioned it on previous shows, Ryan. Their running game fell off a cliff. So I'm giving the Buccaneers a C plus because this division easily could have been theirs. And they just couldn't step up and take it. And Baker regressed towards the end of the year. Next, I'm going to the Falcons. They get a C plus because they surged I would have given them a worse grade, but they surged at the end of the year. Once Michael Penix went down, Kirk Cousins, he went in there and the team looked a little better. They also had some big upsets on their schedule. They beat the Rams. They beat the Bills. there was some good upsets. I don't think they should have gotten rid of Raheem Morris. I think he was starting to figure it out. But the Falcons get a C+. The class of this division with a grade of a B-, in my opinion, is the Carolina Panthers, because they're slowly building something. And, Bryce Young, he looks like the real deal. He's engineered a lot of fourth quarter comebacks. Look it up. They're starting to figure it out a little bit in Carolina. Tedero and McMillan looks to be the real deal. I love their running back duo. They got a lot to look forward to in Carolina. B- for them.
All right. My turn. I had a take during the year that this division was going to be a division to watch in 2025. And that prediction was, I deserve some demerits for that take, because it was on fire already, and by on fire I mean this division went down in flames very quickly. But here are my grades for this division. Atlanta Falcons, I gave them a C-. I would have given them a C, but they fired their coach. Their play during the season caused their GM and their head coach to be fired. It cost them their jobs. Because don't forget, Terry Fontenot is also let go at the end of the season. I think part of it, the loss to the Jets. Yes, they lost to the Jets. That game, if they had won that game, they would have won this division with an over 500 record. But they played inconsistently throughout the season. They caught fire towards the end, especially with Kirk Cousins filling in for Michael Penix. But unfortunately, it was a three-way tie for the division. They were already out of playoff contention by the time they won their 8th game. So I gave them a C-. Carolina, I gave them a B+. It's a low grade. Actually, no, a B+ is a good grade, because look, for all their inconsistencies, they still pulled out the division. They the LA Rams to the limit in the wild card. I was hoping they'd win that game, but gentlemen, what does prevent defense prevent?
Wins.
Victories.
Yeah.
And you don't play prevent defense against a team like the Rams, who will pick you, and Matthew Stafford, who will seasoned veteran, who will pick you apart. So I give them a B+, just for the fact that they won the division. Nobody predicted them to win the division. And they just basically, I wouldn't say came out of nowhere, but this team's on the rise. And I expect to see them try to improve on their grade. Actually, you know what? I'm going to change it to a B. Not a B+, just a B. Right. Just a B, because they got potential to possibly get an A or a B+ next year. New Orleans Saints, I was generous. I gave them a C-. The reason why I give them a C- is because, again, like Drew said, and like Coach Willingham and Professor Henry said, like, they showed a lot of fight in a lot of these games. And even though it was 11 losses, they were still playing teams tough. They almost beat the Patriots. They upset the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa Bay, which I'll get to in a moment. But they beat some teams, or took some teams to the limit that were playoff contenders. They won some games that might have prevented them from getting a higher draft spot in this year's draft. But I think Kellen Moore did a great job in starting to develop Tyler Shook. I think Tyler Shook will be a quarterback to watch next year. So I gave the Saints a C-. It's a very generous C-, mind you. And then the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I gave them a C. I gave them a C because this team was looking to be the class of the division in 2025, but they lost 7 of 9 to finish out the season. And like my cohort said, repeating what I said, their run game was awful this year. They were 4th in the league in 2024 in rushing offense. They finished 20th this year. I know injuries happened. A lot of things happened in this team. And in terms of the offense, defense is still pretty good. Todd Bowles can script a really good defense, but they had to rely on Baker Mayfield a lot this year, because their offense was just, their run game was kind of just squiffy. And I give them a C-. So a C to finish the year. albeit a very generous C. All right, last period, gentlemen. The NFC, we're moving on to the next class, which is the NFC West. Professor Henry, I'm going to start off with you.
All right, this is my home division. So we're finishing the day with what I felt was the class of the NFL this year, with the exception of, again, I'm going bottom to top, the Arizona Cardinals. Now, they did deal with some injuries. Losing James Conner, not insignificant, but they could, and then they lost a couple of their other running backs too. They couldn't figure it out. Emario DiMercato was hurt, and also their other running back, who was a high draft pick from a couple of years ago, he was hurt as well. So it was just tough season for him. But here's the thing: when Kyler Murray looks worse than Jacoby Brissett in there, and Jacoby Brissett was actually trying to get your number one receivers the ball, you got a problem. So I am giving the Cardinals a D+ because they got to make a decision on Kyler Murray. And let's call it what it is. When you look this bad, and I've talked about Jonathan Gannon, I thought he was a good coach, but when you look this bad while the rest of your division is doing this good, the difference is stark. D- for the Cardinals because they just couldn't figure it out. Okay, next we're going to the San Francisco 49ers. I give them a B+. You gotta give them an A for effort with all the injuries that they dealt with, and they had Mac Jones in for spells at quarterback, and they still were winning games. They still were beating teams. At some point, you wondered how they did it. They had defensive injuries. They lost Bosa. They lost Warner. How are they doing this? But they did it. B+ for the Niners. They'll be back as they get healthy, although they got to figure it out. And then this is where I give the Rams an A-. The Rams, everybody said, hey, we don't like the moves that you did. You didn't do enough moves. Well, they brought in Devontae Adams, and that was almost enough, okay? Because Matthew Stafford, the only reason I give the Rams not an A is because they almost let Stafford go. They made it clear they didn't want to re-sign him, and then both sides kind of figured out that, oh, maybe we're still the best match for each other. Stafford's back, held up. The offensive line did an okay job protecting him, and their defense under Chris Shula performed well again. The minus is from their special teams, though. They almost got a B+ because their special teams awful. And this, okay, people are going to call me a homer, but call me a homer, call me whatever you want. I'm giving the Seahawks an A+ because nobody saw the 14-3 record and the number 1 seed in the NFC coming.
Alert!
Thank you.
I'm glad I didn't get that.
But here it is, man. You can call me whatever you want, but we can back it up. I was skeptical of the Lawrence signing. He looked amazing. Okay, the Ernest Jones trade, one of the best trades in recent franchise history. Jackson Smith-Njigba, everybody said, how's he going to do without DK in town? He showed everybody. He was one of the best receivers in the NFL. Their running game, I almost gave them an A- because their running game didn't get going until early in the season. But 2 years, Mike McDonald has completely turned this team around. The defense looks unbelievable. They had another good draft. They hit on Gray Zabel. He impacted their offensive line. They finally have an offensive line. And here's the thing, John Schneider, Executive of the Year, and the Darnold move. You got to give them all the credit in the world for the Sam Darnold move because it has worked out. And look where the Vikings are. And you got Kevin O'Connell coming out and wishing that he stayed with Sam Darnold. And your number 1 wideout in Justin Jefferson saying the same thing. They're in the Super Bowl. People are picking them to win. I'm not going to do that yet because I don't want to jinx my squad. But A+. I'm sorry.
All right. NFC West, my turn. Arizona, give him a D. For losing 14 games in a row. The subtle pause.
Yeah, the pause. That's what did it.
You can't get away with that in most states.
Yeah.
Gave them a D because this was just a bad team. This is a lot of people's wild card pick. How is this team a wild card pick? They were terrible this year. Absolutely terrible. So I gave them their grade a D. LA Rams, I originally had them as an A- team. I decided to backtrack and give them a B+ based on the back half schedule of this regular season. They finished 3-3 in their final 6 games. Lost in Carolina. How? Blew a 14-point lead against the Seahawks on a Thursday night where they could have taken a commanding lead in that division. Then the next week they lay an egg in Atlanta on Monday night.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they lost the division that week. So I think for that effort, they get a B+. Made up for it in the playoffs, winning 2 games on the road and losing a very close one in the championship game. San Francisco 49ers, I originally had them as a B+, but I switched up to a B. All those injuries, regardless of all those injuries that they had with key players on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball, they gritted it out. And sometimes when you grind out a lot of games and you grind out your schoolwork, you finish with a B. They finished with a solid B. And for the Seattle Seahawks, I gave them a solid A. They have been an absolute wagon the second half of the season. That Rashid Shaheed trade at the deadline has been the best thing possible for this team because it gives them an extra layer of dimension on the offensive side of the ball. It also helps them on the special team side of the ball, demonstrated in that Thursday night comeback win. That punt return for a touchdown sparked their comeback, and the kick return, the opening kickoff return for a touchdown in the divisional round, it made everybody say, "This game's over. The Niners can't come back from that." And I think he's going to make a big difference in their game on Sunday in the Super Bowl. So those are my grades for the NFC West. Drew, let's hear what yours are.
Well, this division right here was the best in all of football. The only division to have 3 teams represent, so the Seahawks, Rams, and 49ers all making the playoffs. And if it wasn't for one team having to be a dumpster Pelican in the division, we could have had a potential, like the NFC East did a couple of years ago, to have 3 wildcard teams and a division winner, but we're not going to see that with the Cardinals anytime soon. However, with that being said, I feel like you guys were too generous with the Cardinals, giving them a D and a D- rating. I'm giving them an F+. Give them an F+, and they're lucky to have an F plus or an F-. Yeah, they got a plus in there, but it's with an F. That's my grade for the Cardinals this year. If it wasn't for Jacoby Brissett, this team would have finished 0-17. That's just the way I look at it. He was the savior of them not being the first 0-17 team in the NFL. Then you go up. I'm starting at the bottom and going up for the first time in this list because I want to save the best one for last. The 49ers above the Cardinals, finishing at a 12-5 record, the same as the Rams, but they didn't get as far as the Rams did. They battled injuries, like you guys said, and the Brandon Ayuk drama throughout the season. Yeah. They could have had a better year potentially had they been clicking on all cylinders with a number 1 wideout, and that's what they need over there in San Francisco for that offense to click with Brock Purdy. For all that being said, I'm giving them a B- for this year with everything said that they were able to do to get to the playoffs, to get to a 12-5 record. Pretty respectable. They do need to figure out some things on defense to improve a little bit as well. The Rams getting all the way to the NFC Championship game. Matthew Stafford coming back from last year. People were saying he was potentially getting close to being washed. And then 2 days from now, we could be hearing him as the NFL MVP of the league for what he did. Yes, he has weapons over there. Devontae Adams was a pretty big pickup for them the past offseason, but he wasn't the only big moves that they made. Finishing 12-5 was pretty big. They even had a better home record than the Seahawks, as they were 7-1 for the year. For that and how they finished and how they got to the NFC Championship game to face the Seahawks, giving them an A- for the year. The Seahawks, Dustin gave the best take of us all. Of course, he would know because he is a homer of the team. But for that, for everything that he said, for everything we've seen, the Sam Darnold pickup tipped the scales during the offseason because you needed a true leader over there on the offense at quarterback. because of everything they accomplished this year, they are in the Super Bowl like the Patriots. On the AFC side that I picked with the A+. I'm giving the Seahawks an A+ for the NFC West. They led the charge this year, representing 3 teams, having been representing this division right here, and then being the top of it and the top of the NFC. They get the A+ in my opinion.
All right. So we have one more thing to discuss before we get out of here. But I do want to say, if you want to stay for extra credit, feel free to stick along because we're going to talk about some coaching vacancies that have officially been filled. So unofficially, the school day is over. We got to talk about the last matches made on our app, Coacher. Second, first off, let's talk about Mike LaFleur. Now headed to the Arizona Cardinals, was the offensive coordinator this past season for the LA Rams, now heading to division rival in Arizona. And Drew, I want to get your thoughts on this match.
Nepo baby hire. That's how I feel. Brother of Matt LaFleur and the over there with the Packers, and then of course he coaches under his boy McVay, who, yes, you look at like the coordinators who've worked under McVay have all been elevated to head coach at this point, and this being the latest one with Mike LaFleur. So, yes, you can sit here and say Nepo hire like I did, but I feel like he's got a better chance than Gannon did of turning this franchise around. I feel like you're beyond getting Kyler Duty off of the sticks and getting him away from the video games. So you might need to shift away from a different quarterback during this offseason. However, he's not going to be the one making all the moves with the GM department, so they're going to have to collaborate well. I feel like he's got a better chance of turning this thing around for the Cardinals than Gannon did.
All right. I got some thoughts about this. A couple seasons ago, Mike LaFleur started as the offensive coordinator with the New York Jets under Robert Saleh and was fired 2 seasons later. Now he's coaching. Now is the head coach of an NFL football team. As far as turning this club around, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time. The defense had a decent season up until the end. The offense, I guess you could say, trying to find their footing. They're finally right. They found who they thought was the right guy. Now, the quarterback situation, the quarterback dilemma. Do you trade Kyler Murray? Do you let Jacoby Brissett play another season, a full season, and maybe draft a quarterback in this year's draft coming up? Or do you sign a quarterback in the offseason? Let's see what they can do. But I think you can get this offense back into motion. He just needs to surround himself with the right people. Dustin, your thoughts on Mike LaFleur becoming head coach of the Cardinals?
Okay, so I don't know. I really don't know how this is going to work out because I don't. Is Mike his brother? I mean, who knows? But he's sat under the learning tree of Sean McVay, and like Drew said, that's usually a pretty good learning tree to be under. But hopefully he can figure out how to unlock Marvin Harrison Jr. Because you got to get something out of this draft pick. And I think they have to move on from Kyler Murray. I think it's over. You find somebody that wants him, wants to try to, could he go to the Raiders? Doubtful. Could he go to possibly the Jets? I know you don't want to hear that, Ryan, but is there somebody
He'll tear
out
his
there?
ACL as soon as he steps on the turf of MetLife Stadium.
Yeah, I mean,
Turf monster will get him.
I think they got to move on from that. But like you said, it's going to have to be a collaborative effort between he and the GM to try to turn this thing around. It's not going to happen overnight. But who knows? It's yet to be determined. I'm kind of indeterminate on this one. It doesn't move the needle for me, but I'm also not like, oh, this is a terrible hire. It's one of the last vacancies to be filled. We'll have to see how it works out.
All right. And the other vacancy that was filled does affect Dustin's Seattle Seahawks. Clint Kubiak. They can't announce it yet. The Raiders can't announce it yet because the Seahawks have not finished their season. But it appears that offensive coordinator of the Seahawks, Clint Kubiak, is his job to lose. And it looks like things are going to happen the Raiders are going to hire Clint Kubiak as their head coach. Dustin, if this does come into fruition, if the Seahawks win on Sunday and they ride into the sunset for this 2025 season, if Clint Kubiak does indeed become coach of the Raiders, which is, from all reports, is his job to lose, it's his job if he wants it, is this going to be a pretty significant loss for the Seahawks offense in 2026?
Yes, I think so because, Ryan Grubb got let go after the Seahawks had a respectable season with Ryan Grubb at the helm. But the argument from Mike Macdonald, he basically said, this is not my vision for the team. We threw the ball all over the place. It's not what I want to do as an offense. I need someone who can help us run the ball. I want to emphasize the run more. Clint Kubiak was that guy because he did it in New Orleans. And guess what? He's a disciple of that Shanahan downfield block system. He had it, his dad ran it. So I think this could, because it seemed like Mike Macdonald and Clint Kubiak were a perfect match in offensive philosophy. So I think it is going to be a big loss for the Seahawks. We debated, if we were Clint, would you leave the Seahawks situation for a kind of unknown in the Raiders? They're probably going to draft Mendoza. Will Clint be able to unlock Mendoza? I mean, they have Ashton Jeanty. Hopefully Clint can implement that scheme and kind of revamp the O-line and get Jeanty taking off next year. I mean, who knows? They have some talent in Brock Bowers, but the Raiders, they got a lot of needs to fill. And the other thing is, Tom Brady's got input on this roster, and he's got a lot of input on this roster. Is Clint going to be able to deal with that? I think that's why this vacancy, I mean, Tom Brady made no secret. He loved Kubiak's offense. He said it a million times during the Seahawks playoff games that he did. So who knows? This is the great unknown. If I'm Clint, the head coaching opportunity had to be tantalizing, but I don't know that I would have left Seattle for this. I think I would have stayed one more year as coordinator, and then if they had another good year, see what other openings would be available next year, because the Raiders, this is going to be a long haul, and I don't think the Raiders will give him the time he needs to turn this around.
Drew, let's get your thoughts.
I like a lot of what you just said, but I do disagree a little bit towards the latter part of what you were saying, because, I mean, think of the Raiders from like a half decade ago. Yes, I would give you that, around the time that, Gruden stepped down and how things were spiraling out of control. At that point, I would say, yes, the patience was a lot thinner, but things have changed a little bit since Thomas Edward Patrick Brady II is now part of the ownership crew. And it's not like the LaFleur hire where I was sitting up here starting off with the Nepo baby, because Clint obviously did get a lot of his offensive mastermind from his dad, and he's getting the exposure at an earlier age as a coordinator than Gary did. Gary, kind of came around towards the latter part of his career. Yes, he did coach in Houston for a bit, but he didn't really start to hit his peak until he was with Peyton Manning and the Broncos and won the Super Bowl. I feel like Clint starting out earlier here with the Raiders, and you have somebody with a championship pedigree like Tom Brady calling the shots, it's going to take a little bit more time now that this is really Tom's second full offseason to be part of the helm and making decisions for the Raiders. And now that he's got a little bit more hands into the pot than he did at the beginning, I feel like Tom's going to make a little bit more decisions that are for the best of the organization. Pete Carroll was kind of like a damage control hire, I felt like, last offseason, kind of trying to put a Band-Aid on it, bringing him and Geno Smith in there. I felt like Geno wasn't the long-term answer based on how things fell apart in Seattle, and it wasn't going to transition well for the Raiders for the long term. And we saw how that ended up this past season. There could be a potential better opportunity next season, but at the same time, coaches get fired for a reason. Teams are underperforming. So if you're going to take a shot, I feel like the Raiders have a very young crew, like you had said, with Bowers and Jeanty. The quarterback is a big question. I'm not quite sure if it's going to be Mendoza or whoever it is they take with that high pick, but they've got to bring in somebody that's going to be a game changer at that position at quarterback. And, based on what we're seeing, there's going to be a lot more discussions between now and the draft, but Mendoza's tipping the scales based on what he did for Indiana and helping them get the national championship. There's a lot more moves the Raiders got to make in the offseason besides the quarterback position. It starts with leadership, and we already saw how things went for the New England Patriots switching to Vrabel in the offseason this past year and how that shifted and transitioned to them having success this year. I'm not saying the Raiders are going to do that and go from 4-13 to 14-3 like they did with the Patriots switching from Mayo to Vrabel, but I feel like switching from Carroll to Kubiak, whether you give them the 5-year deal or not, from what they're talking about, they're trying to finalize in the background, you give them a chance. Feel like within the next 3 years, he can make them a team that's going to scare you, especially if Bowers can stay healthy. They can build an offensive line to protect Janty and whoever the quarterback they bring in. It's an upswing, and it's going to take a little bit of time. But like you said, they could cut the cord with them a little bit too soon. But I feel like now that Tom Brady's up there making the shots, they're going to have a little bit more patience because they really realize what they're working with after seeing what they dealt with in 2025.
So, interesting comment in the comments section. Desi saying I would have stayed. Well, here's the thing, Des. How many chances are you going to have to coach a team in the NFL?
True.
So
that is true.
If this is indeed Clint Kubiak's job to refuse, then the Raiders can't say anything, can't say boo until the season is officially over, until Sunday is done and come and gone. But if he's already told his team, yeah, I'm going to take the job in Las Vegas when the season's over, it could be a good thing for the Seahawks in that they want to play their hearts out for Kubiak in the Super Bowl. I mean, yeah, it's good. I have to wonder if Clint Kubiak said in the meeting, listen, I understand what this team's all about. It's commitment to excellence. This team has not been excellent for a very, very long time. Not since their days in Oakland. They've gone to the playoffs, once since they relocated to Las Vegas?
Derek Carr.
Yeah, Derek Carr. Rich Bisaccia was their head coach, FYI. Trivia question.
He got fired.
No, he didn't get fired.
He was interim. He was
the interim head coach, and then he went to.
That was after Gruden left. Yeah,
that was after Gruden left. He took over. He guided them to the playoffs. Was not offered the job. Give it to Josh McDaniels. And also what happened there. But I think this is a good match for the Raiders because they need somebody who can express, I need time to build a team. I need time to come up with a system that's going to help. Because he's a Kubiak. He loves to run the football. He wants to run the football. They've got Ashton Janty in the backfield. That was their first round pick last year. They just need to implement a blocking scheme that can help Janty. I think he's going to have a big – if Kubiak is the head coach, I think you're going to see a big jump in rushing yards next year for Ashton Janty. As far as the defense goes, let's see who he hires as the defensive coordinator. And let's see if Max Crosby will want to stay. If he can convince Max Crosby to stay and build that defense around him like they should, then this team could be – I think – if Tom Brady expresses patience to Mark Davis, because you gotta wonder how much he's going to be paying per year for coaches who don't coach this team anymore.
Yeah,
John Gruden, Antonio Pierce, Josh McDaniels, hopefully, and Pete Carroll now.
Yeah, Pete Carroll, who
hopefully Clint Kubiak's not next, and who won't be. And he won't be fired after 2 seasons.
You gotta think that Kubiak had the conversation with whoever he was talking to, Brady or whoever, about that with Max Crosby before he accepted it. Like, you got to have a staple on the defense, and that is your staple over there, especially if you're more offensive minded and somebody to build around. Why would you even take the job if you would have to do even more damage control on a side that you're not even the most privy to? So I feel like that was part of the conversation with them coming in. I don't know. I wasn't there. I'm just
neither was I, but to be a fly in the wall, absolutely. Dustin, your thought, and we'll get out of here.
Well, just real quick, the offensive line, you both brought up a great point. The offensive line has to improve because it can't get any worse than the job Brennan Carroll was doing there
Good God.
with that offensive line. That was, you talk Nepo baby, Drew. That was Pete. Pete brought his sons over for the staff, and if you read some of the reports on what was going on with the Raiders, apparently Spytech, the GM, was breaking down tape with the rookies. He offered to break down tape because they weren't getting. Gino and the offensive line were meeting as players only to discuss the Gino, Genti, and the offensive line. They were meeting to try to break down blocking schemes, and Gino was telling them how he wanted them to block because they were getting nothing from Brendan Carroll, the offensive line coach. If all that is true, it's got to come up from there.
All right. A couple more comments, and we'll get out of here. Dustin's uncle Al saying, Bobby Bonilla nods in approval. And the last comment of the night comes from our friend Desi down south saying, I deserve the naughty chair in detention.
So she was married?
Yeah, she is. Yeah.
It's a lucky guy.
For sure. All right, we're get out of here. Drew, where can good people find you and your content?
Hey, you can find me where the struggle is real to be awesome each and every single day over at Sartoba Media on major platforms such as YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter, all that good stuff. Right now, I'm currently on hiatus as a producer of my own platform for the past month and about 5 weeks now. Started a new career. So I'm just doing guest appearances right now. But I had a guest appearance the other day on a program. Actually, this would be the third one I've done in the past week. So I've been getting knocking the rust off. I'll be back soon, but you can check us out at Sartoba Media. Corey Mann also does a wrestling show that you can check out on Saturday. So we're not completely dormant. He just had an episode this past Saturday if you want to check it out. But if you want to see me and all the random Saskatchewan Rough Riders I can throw out there, come on over here. You can see me. You can also see these fellows over here sometimes when they come on over and talk sports debate for Sports Ball.
Got that sports ball. Thanks, Drew. Appreciate you hanging out with us. And before we get out of here, I just want to remind the people far and wide to check us out on social media. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch. Just search for No Credentials Required or at NoCreds, REQED. And you can check out our other podcasts and written content at bellyupsports.com. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Music, iHeart, TuneIn, Pandora, and our pod host, which is Podbean, Freshly Brewed Podcasts. Hit that notification bell on Twitter, on YouTube, so you know when the show goes live, when the show replay goes up. You hit that notification bell, you get yourself notified, and you can check us out for more announcements. Desi saying, thanks, Drew. Hey, thanks for being here, bud. We appreciate you. But we're going to get out of here. We'll be back on Saturday morning for our Super Bowl. Oh, wait, we can't say Super Bowl, can we? Our big game preview, 10 a.m. Eastern on Facebook.
Oh, man.
We'll be on the We'll be on the Belly Up Sports Twitter /X, and we'll be on Twitch. So stay tuned to social media. We're going to try to find some special guests. We're going to bring in those special guests. So you'll definitely want to join us. And we'll be back Monday morning for a special live stream in the morning, our post-mortem for the special day. So we're going to get out of here. And thank you for joining us on No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports, but you will need a hall pass in case you're late. We are presented by Belly Up Sports. For Drew, for Dustin, I'm Ryan. See you Saturday morning for our big game preview. We'll see you then.
See me after class. Good night, everybody.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.